Yes, it's Hollie's Hotspurs back with another one. Chatting all things Tottenham, we're second to none. Special guests every time, if it's win, lose or draw. The passion is high like Harry Kane when he scores. Or when Lloris makes a world-class save. We got Højbjerg running the mid every game. Settle down, stick around, share your thoughts with the panel. And make sure you're subscribing to the channel, cause...
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Hollie's Hotspurs live, where today I thought we'd be talking about win, but sadly it's the on the other foot, and we will be talking about a loss. But hey, the performance was a lot better, so we've got a lot to get into and dissect. And with me tonight, I am joined by three fabulous guests once again. So with me, I have Jay. Jay, how are you this evening? It's nice to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. It's nice not to have to mute each other's mics when we talk to each other anymore. We finally realised we can go in different rooms. It's happy to be on. I've calmed down from the pub yesterday watching it, as you witnessed. So yeah, I'm ready to calmly talk about it now.
I think that's the good thing about this show. It's the day after, so you can kind of calm down a little bit and not have full rage. But no, it's good to have you on, Jay. And also, I'm joined by Crackers, who's currently sorting out his blinds. Lovely stuff. Everybody admire it. It's great. It's great business. How are you, Crackers?
Professional, Hollie. Look, and give myself a background so you don't get a glare from the hotel opposite. Look, seamless.
I like it.
Nobody's noticed.
Good work.
I'm very well. Are you well? Are you all good? Yes.
Yeah, I'm all right. Like we said before we came on air, it could be a lot worse, but here we are.
Exactly, yeah. It's never mind the quality, feel the length type of night, isn't it? It was a good performance. It was better than Bournemouth. There was a lot of things where it was easy to get angry at certain things, and but if you sort of look between the lines of yesterday, not just with the performance, but with one or two players, which we'll touch on later in the show, there's some little subtle things like you may not have thought about or looked at. And so not as upset as I thought I would be. So anyway, I'm waffling, Hollie. Carry on.
No, it's good to have you back, Crackers. And also with us, we have Mitch. Mitch, how are you tonight on this fine Monday evening?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, actually. I think, similar to Rich, I was a bit annoyed after the game yesterday, but I calmed down relatively quickly. It's just frustrating when you play well and you end up losing a game. It seems we can't put the right things together. We can't play well and pick up good results. It's always one or the other at the moment. So, I'm confident we'll get there eventually, but there was a lot of positives to take from the game yesterday. So I've been in much worse mood, Hollie, to be honest with you. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not one of those Mondays where you just can't be dealing with it. We've kind of all got over it, which is nice. But hey, we're going to talk about it tonight, so even better. But everybody that's joining right now, thank you all for tuning in. If you're rewatching this, thank you very much for the support. I do appreciate it. And without further ado, let's crack on with it. Crackers, I'm going to come to you first because obviously we all saw the lineup. We know that Sonny is obviously out for this game. And we saw maybe an unlikely figure up top alongside Harry Kane, and that was Perisic. So how are you kind of feeling when you saw Perisic's name alongside Harry Kane, so to speak?
I was wondering what the Italian is for "we're down to the bare bones," as Harry used to say. I wonder if I will look up what the Italian is for it. He had to play the cards that was dealt him because he's not got Richarlison, he's not got Sonny. There's a few in that squad that's got their eye on the World Cup at the moment. More on that later. I'm looking at you, Mr. Romero. So that's what he had. There's a couple of baffling things within that. Emerson Royal, once again, he seems to maybe he's got some photos of the boss coming out of a house of ill repute somewhere, and he said like you're going to play me or else like I'm taking these pictures to the media. It's just. Apart from one or two people, even Hill, I can't understand. I'd have thrown Hill on a little bit. He just gives you something a little bit different, a little bit. He gets you up the pitch. He's one of these mercurial talents at the moment, isn't he? He's a bit like Tarabt or Stefan Dalmat, or at the moment, he's young. So he just gives you a little bit of a maverick performance that might just get you something. He's not much of a gambler, is he? But with that lineup, Hollie, I think that's all he really had. And Perisic up front, well, I think it's just one of those things where he's gone, well, you're as old as the hills, and you've been round the block and you're quite experienced. Go and do a job for me. So because Conte's MO is he's never going to go and throw a kid on, is he? He'd rather put somebody completely out of position that's been round the game a long time and go and see what you can do. So it was just we're stumbling over the line at the moment, aren't we, to this World Cup? This is what it's all about, and within that, you now come down to what nationality your players are. So if they're generally European players, they'll still turn out for you. If they're South American, Latin types, as I've well learned from living in Spain for 3 years, it doesn't matter if your club is giving you £10 million a week, forget it. You're turning out for your country, and you will invent some sort of muscle problem, as we're currently seeing with Messi, with Romero, and with one or two others, Ronaldo as well. They're all getting ready for the World Cup, and they're all not playing for their clubs because it's a totally different mentality. So at the moment, you're all over the place. Saturday, I think I might get a game, to be honest, because there'll be one or two others that go, I'm not playing against Leeds, because if I play and I get kicked in the air and break a metatarsal, I'm done for the World Cup. And I've let the whole nation down. There's big politics going on behind the scenes. So he done what he had to. He played with what he had. He done what he had to do on Sunday, and sadly, it wasn't to be. So.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Crackers. Like you say, I think this World Cup is in the back of players' minds, and I think Conte knows that. I mean, Mitch, you kind of on the same kind of thing. I was just a bit confused to see why we have got the likes of Perisic up top, but then maybe it is what Cracker said. Conte isn't going to trust the likes of Bayern Hill or Lucas Moura, even though he's just coming back from injury.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too upset with the lineup on Sunday, to be honest. I actually had a feeling that Perisic would be able to do half a job, which I think he did, to be honest. Nearly scored. I can't believe he still hasn't scored a goal for us. It's quite ridiculous at this point, and obviously hitting the bar with that effort in the second half on Sunday. But I mean, it's a weird one with doing what he's got to do, because I think with Romero, I think it's a bit of a nationality thing. I mean, if you take a look at the list of so-called injured players for Argentina at the moment, it's quite extensive, and I am keeping an eye on it to see how many of them do make it to the World Cup. But with some of the other players, it's weird because you've got people like Bentancur, who's also South American, and he's putting absolutely everything on the line for us. And he looked like he had picked up a knock in midweek against Marseille, but managed to come through it. And he looks like he just wants to play every single minute of every single game, which is the sort of player that we need. So, I mean, I feel like Perisic is that same sort of player, and I feel like although he hasn't arguably been at his best, I don't think we've seen him at his best yet for Spurs. He still does put in a shift every single game, and I think that's what Conte has been valuing over the last couple of weeks, because like Crackers was saying, it absolutely right. Players are saving themselves for the World Cup, and I think you'd be a bit foolish to suggest that they aren't. It's a big tournament. It's unusual for them. It's in the middle of the season. They don't want to take any risks, because you only play, well, in rare circumstances, a player will play 4 World Cups if he's at the top of the game for most of his career. For the rest of them, it's anywhere between 1 and 3 World Cups in their lifetime. So it's not a tournament that they want to miss. So with the players that are available, I think we're actually doing a quite good job. But I also do think that we will see Richarlison back, hopefully next weekend, because he's obviously been selected in the Brazil squad today. So he's obviously fit enough to be ready for that. So, it's the same for a lot of teams, But I'm kind of sort of just glad at this point that we've only got 2 games left and we can just push it all to the side, go away, enjoy the tournament to whatever extent you want to, with it being where it is and however you feel about it being in the middle of the season. And then I think second half of the season after the World Cup going into the new year, it's going to be all guns blazing from every team. So I think the season will get quite exciting after that. But, not too bad.
No, it was all right. Like you say, the players that did play, obviously, Jay, I thought did put a shift in. I mean, we were a bit slow to start with, but I thought we did okay compared to the likes of the Bournemouth and Marseille games. We never really got out the blocks in the first half in those games. And against Liverpool, we seemed to be all right in the first half.
When the lineup came up, I had no idea how we were going to create chances. It looked like we'd set up for 0-0 for half time and then bring on some players in the second half to maybe snatch it. But I was really surprised how the players that we had on the field, we actually created quite a few chances in the first half. And like you said, the games against Bournemouth and stuff, it hasn't looked like we've been able to create anything, let alone against Liverpool. And Liverpool, obviously, a little bit shaky at the minute. They're not in the best run of form. So, if there's any time to play up to Liverpool, it was that game. But yeah, no, I think going back to the Perisic thing, I don't know if Conte's been, playing FIFA or something, but he's got out of position Perisic, playing in cam. Like it was a weird one, but like Mitch said, I think he'd done a job up there, to be honest. And it wasn't a hindrance to have him there. But yeah, first half was slow, but we got there in the end. But yeah.
No, I think you're right. I think obviously because like going back to Perisic again, I think he did hit the crossbar, the woodwork at some point in the first half. And to think if that went in, maybe the first half maybe ended a little bit different. But sadly, Crackers, I know you take a big drink there, mate, so I'll waffle it out a bit. But I know
Carry on.
Unfortunately, conceded from Salah. I think my only thoughts on the goal was the fact that it was too easy for Liverpool to get the ball across from outside the wing, which was down to Emerson, towards the box. So again, I think it's highlighting the positions that I think we all need to know that we need to obviously get better in those positions, like Emerson. I've lasted 12 minutes without mentioning his name, but here we are.
Well, the goal came on 11 minutes, Hollie, and Klopp's no fool. He's not having a great season this season, but he's no fool. And that was attempt number 5, which actually resulted in a goal. They'd had 4 goes at trying to execute that move in the first 10 minutes. And Emerson's not seen it, or Conte's not seen it, or a mixture of all of it. Perhaps Conte has seen it and he's given Royal a shout on that trying to happen because they know that's our Achilles heel. So on attempt 5, guess what? The ball comes in, it's a great ball, and it falls to Salah, and it's 1-0 because we haven't addressed what they were trying to do. They showed us their game plan, and we still never got on top of it. Now you're under the gun, you're 1-0 down, but even at that point, I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a team that hasn't won away on the road, and they look shaky. We will catch them. We'll get them somewhere. But like in the Bournemouth game and many other games before, the whole 45 plays out where you just think to yourself, what is this? What am I watching now? Why are you not doing anything? Why? It just leaves you so many whys. But we picked up after that. From about 15 minutes onwards, we had a few shaky minutes. Lloris had a bit of a wobble, as he normally does. But we settled. And from minute 15 to minute 47, we actually played better. And we didn't go a whole half where we was absolutely tripe. So I'm thinking to myself, that's good. Now the second half comes, and you're right, because Perisic, I think it was, that hit the post. I think Alisson got his hands to a ball. There was the chance where we hit the post. Then there's the penalty from Trent Alexander-Arnold. We go in at half-time 2-1 up. It's a totally different game then, with Liverpool's shaky record on the road and shaky confidence because they looked like rabbits in the headlights in the second half. You go in 2-1 up. I think we win that game about 4-1. And it is those tiny, tiny, tiny little moments. It's butterflies' wings flapping that causes tsunami somewhere else, isn't it? And for the rest of that half and the rest of that game, I thought we played really well. I was actually more angry with the performance and beating Bournemouth than I was yesterday losing to Liverpool. Because, you know, if you're a Liverpool fan and you're happy because you've done something in 90 minutes, I'll tell you something now. If you're playing like that, you go and have a look at the next 90 days, not that 90 minutes, the next 90 days, because if they don't get out of their funk, they're in trouble, Liverpool. They just look all over the place. But from what I saw from us is that we will, as long as we knock some mistakes out of our game, go on to do good things in the second half of the season if everybody comes back from that traditional hotbed of football, Qatar, looking at you, FIFA. We come back with players intact and make a couple of decent signings in January. Over to you, Mr. Levy. We'll have a good second half of the season. So, it was a strange game yesterday. Very, very strange in that respect. It's it could have, should have, would have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those. And I think what you make on the point of is fine margins. I think it really was, Mitch, because I know Crackers has slightly touched on it, but I think Trent had an absolute mare yesterday. And I still can't get my head around the fact that that wasn't even given as a pen, because we've had it many times where we've seen it and it's happened. So I'm just a bit confused of how that happened. And like Cracker said, if we do manage to get that pen, it's level terms. We could have pushed on to get the next one.
Yeah, I saw someone tweet yesterday that he thought that Trent had been Liverpool's best player, and I'm not sure if he was just watching a completely different game to what I was, because I thought he was their worst player by far. The penalty one is funny because I think it was Darren England that was in VAR yesterday, who was also the one that gave a penalty in the City game on Cancelo and sent him off. So I'm really struggling to sort of understand the difference between the two. I get what I think that they've based it on is that Sessegnon maybe looks like he's either not keeping the ball on the pitch or it looks like he might be going down anyway. And Trent has nudged him in the back. There's no denying that. I mean, I could see it from the top corner of the South Stand. It was clear as day. The Cancelo one, it looked like he was coming in with a bit more speed and he sort of came across him rather from directly behind him. But, I mean, the double standards are very clearly there. And, again, it highlights a bit of a lack of consistency. But at the same time, we had more opportunities down that side. Sessegnon had an okay game. But again, it was the same old story with him. He never really makes the right decision in the final third. He manages to make the runs and he gets himself in the good position, but he never finds the right man in the box, or he never knows when to shoot or cut it back or that sort of thing. Because I think we exploited Alexander-Arnold's weaknesses quite well in the end yesterday. He's not very good defensively. I think it's been made pretty clear over the course of the season at this point. So it's frustrating. Having said that, we had, unfortunately, enough opportunities in that game to not have to have worried about that penalty call. And I know it does change the game if we get it, and it could have been a different outcome. But you think about the first half chance that, I don't know if it came off Alisson in the end or Perisic hit the post or whatever it was, and then Perisic hitting the bar in the second half. And you think about that, Bentancur had a couple of good heading opportunities that just either were straight at Alisson or just went wide of the post. It's all relative at the end of the day. When you think about the amount of chances we had, we should have come away with something from that game, regardless of the penalty call. Having said that, I don't want to let the referees and the officiating off, because I'm a very strong believer that there isn't a single good referee or official in English football, it's just absolutely ridiculous at this point. I moan about it all the time. Nothing's going to change. And to make matters worse, when you're listening to Sky Sports or whatever on the Monday morning, you've got Dermot Gallagher or whoever it is saying, "Oh yeah, I agree with the referee. He made the right decision because he hasn't got the guts on live TV to say he's wrong." It's just another thing. But I mean, I feel like we're going to go on about the referee stuff for forever, and they're just not going to change anything. So it's like, it's frustrating for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just infuriating as well, because like I say, I think it was just a massive game changer. But like you say, Mitch, it could have happened at any point in the game. Like you say, the Perisic chance, other chances throughout the game. But Jay, I kind of want to stick on the ref, because I don't think it was just the penalty call. I like to get my anger out of the ref tonight, because I think it's warranted. But there was instances throughout the whole game I felt that the ref just wasn't seeing things. And I don't want to say it was Liverpool, but I felt like that at points.
That's what I was saying to Dan in the pub, wasn't it? We were sat with the guy that runs the Anfield Watch Twitter. It lives in Portsmouth. How ironic! And we were saying that check club badge, check club badge, the classic. He's like, I've never heard that saying before, and I was like, well, it's funny, that isn't it? But no, yeah, it goes back to what Mitch says about the inconsistencies in the refereeing decisions. And controversial, but I'd rather go back to the days without VAR and it just being the referee making a mistake, because now it's like VAR's there to stop the mistakes and these inconsistencies in the game, and it's not happening because we're getting inconsistencies not only in the referee's decision but then in the VAR referee's decision. So I'd rather go back to saying, oh, Michael Oliver's had a crap game, or Darren England's had a crap game, or whatever, and just say he's had a bad game or he's a bad referee. But now it's like you're looking at the institution, the Referees Association, all of this, and going, how's Anthony Taylor going to the World Cup? Do you know what I mean? Like, and we say it all the time. If you watch any other league in the world, they do not have the same trouble we have with VAR and officiating. Why? It's why? But yeah, it's just game. You're watching a game of football, no matter what the club at the minute, expecting at least one flashpoint during the game to either ruin the game or make the game your way, and it's always down to that man in the middle or the man sat behind his screen. Yeah. And it does change the game. Like Mitch said, we did have enough chances to win the game off its own back, but also, like Cracker said, it's that fine margins, but that's the difference between a team like us and Liverpool. Liverpool are down on their luck. They're inconsistent. They're not playing well. But those fine moments, they still make the right call. It's just they're not being able to get to that point in the game recently. Whereas us, Sessignon was the prime example of that. Always in the right place. And there was I think there was one where he got played through on the edge of the box and he took like a heavy touch. Then he looked across the shot, looked across the cross. He could have shot. Someone came across and tackled him. It was like, we just haven't got that killer instinct that clubs like Liverpool and the big clubs have. But yeah, the refereeing is annoying, but I think we were our own worst enemies yesterday by not taking our chances. Definitely.
And I'd like to move on to the point as well, worst enemies, because I think, Cracknell, Eric Dyer is becoming the villain in the squad, because once again, he's done a mistake that's caused a goal. So yeah, what do you make of his little head assist to Salah for the second goal?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take Eric Dyer individually, and as soon as he doesn't have Romero next to him, he gets shown up, doesn't he? I mean, Eric Dyer and Romero, as I said yesterday, are like the 80s pop band Wham, aren't they? Together, they're great. But as soon as George Michael Romero goes missing, we're left with Andrew Ridgeley, Eric Dyer, and that's the problem you've got. I mean, when you look back at it, even if he makes the header and a clean header back to Lloris, Salah's position was such that even with a real spot-on header, it would have been 50-50 still between Salah and Lloris. So there was every chance Lloris could have got injured because Salah would have gone for the ball. So it would have been a great header back, but a hospital ball. Mm-hmm. Or he done what he done and sort of head shouldered it, something I don't know what he's done, and has done what he's done. When he had two players in front of him, he could have cushioned the ball too. But away from that, Hollie, he actually turned out. There's a chance he goes to the World Cup with England and he could have played. Where was Romero yesterday? Who could have played? I'm not convinced that he's injured. I'm convinced that the Argentinian FA has run round a few and told them to start feeling a little bit of a strain or a little bit of that. But, we're probably giving Romero 150 to 200,000 pounds a week. You're our player until the last moment. And, I'm expecting people on that sort of money to go in for a challenge or a clearance, knowing that there's every chance that you might put a knee out of place, but still do it. And if you miss the World Cup, so be it. But then that comes down to a cultural thing as well, because European players will put more stall and importance on their clubs. With Brazilian and Argentinian players especially, forget it. So that's what you're getting when you sign these players. This is what you have to expect. So like with Richarlison, like, if you don't mind me nicking 5 minutes, Richarlison, you will not see him on Saturday. It's not happening. Even if he is as fit as a fiddle and there is nothing wrong with him, you will not see him, because there's big political things going on in Brazil at the moment that's being played out through the football just due to their election that they've had. I mean, there's a country that could currently end up in civil war, and a lot of that hinges on what goes on in this World Cup and how well Brazil do. Richarlison is their main attacker. He's their spearhead. He's Brazil's Harry Kane. He's not going to play because there is a huge political and a huge, the public and people of Brazil absolutely hanging on this World Cup and what they do. So it's not going to happen. He's not going to play. So to be fair to Eric Dyer, he's made an awful mistake, but he's turned out. He did turn out. And this is what I'm saying to you. This is those between the line things at the moment with performances. So I'm not going to be too hard on Eric Dyer, although he does need replacing eventually, because he really isn't the answer at the moment. But fair play for turning out when others wasn't there at all. Romero wasn't there even to make that mistake. So, you have to have a little bit of light and shade and a bit of fairness with what's going on. But the actual mistake he's made as an individual item boxed in was just, it was a clown's car on fire, wasn't it? It was literally a clown's car on fire. And if you want to do things and go on to win things, there's a few players there now that you've just got to turn around and say, you know what, I like you. And I like Eric as a person. I like him. He's cerebral. He's a thinker. He's a little bit more than just a footballer. There's a person behind there that likes to go to an art gallery, and he's like, he's not too worried about where his next G-Wagon's coming from. But, I don't get behind him for that. I get behind him because of his defensive abilities, and they're lacking to get to where we need to be. So, yeah,
definitely. I think you made a good point, because obviously with most things at the moment, when I see Dyer making a mistake every week in, week out, you do get annoyed. But like you say, he has turned up. I mean, Mitch, do you want to add anything to obviously the mistake that Dyer kind of performed? Because like I said, it's catastrophic, because again, we go 2-0 down.
Yeah, I mean, it probably results in us losing the game, doesn't it? But that's what the top level of football is. If you make mistakes like that, especially against the bigger teams, you're going to get punished, and you're going to find it harder to get back into the games. You've got Liverpool, who have been gifted with that second goal yesterday. They're 2-0 up away from home in a fixture which they've struggled at our place over the last couple of years. I know we've not beaten them, but they've struggled to get one over on us in our new stadium. But they hadn't won away from home all season. They're 2-0 up. They were always just sort of going to sit back because they're lacking a bit of confidence at the moment. And they're just not as good as what they were. So naturally, they just sort of stuck men behind the ball. They looked a bit fragile, but the Dyer thing is the thing that frustrates me so much is it's something that he should be able to do without even thinking about it when you're at the level that he's playing at. And it's not like he's attempting something that he's never done before. You centre backs do that little header back to their keeper all the time. And I know it's just a case of mistiming it and it's a lapse in concentration. It's come off his shoulder or whatever. But when you're the last man and you know that you've got someone like Mo Salah in that front line who is just going to sort of chase after everything, you have to be 100% certain that you're going to make that. And you never sort of get that feeling from Dyer. You're never 100% sure that he's going to make the right decision or pull off what he wants to do. And that was the case again yesterday. And it cost us at least a point in the game. And it's not the first time that it's happened. I mean, everybody makes mistakes in football. It's just a way of the game. And, I feel like this season, the scapegoats have been Lloris, Eric Dyer and Emerson Royale, which Dyer and Emerson, I get, are not good enough. I'll stand on my Hugo Lloris stone until he leaves the club because I love the man so much. But the issue I have with it is when he makes those mistakes, and you notice around the stadium when he then starts getting the ball after they've scored that second goal, and you've got your own fans booing you and stuff like that. Because for the first couple of touches he got after that second goal, fans were booing him. I heard it. It'll affect your confidence massively. And in that sense, it's quite lucky that we've got the World Cup coming in 2 games' time, because it'll give him an opportunity to, I think he'll still be included in that England squad. So it'll give him a good opportunity to go away, gain some confidence and sort of reset, because it would have carried on game after game otherwise. And we're not massively stacked in options at centre-back. So, yeah, I like Crackers was saying, I really, really like Eric as a bloke. He's such a nice guy, and he's been, like a lot of the players that are still there, a really good servant to the club. But there comes a time when you just have to sit up and face the music and realise that we just need better players. And unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of the squad still. So,
yeah, no, I think it's a thing within the core
Hollie,
of the team, I think.
Just to jump in now, as you know, I live in Spain. Let me tell you that at the moment, the Spanish are telling me that they're licking their lips when they get over the halfway line in the World Cup versus England, and absolutely bricking themselves when we get over their halfway line. But like they said, Southgate don't want to come over the halfway line. And that's the problem. But if you go into that World Cup with Dyer and Maguire, forget it. They're licking their lips. I've seen how they train the kids. My kids play football out there. I've seen how they train the kids. They will have them on toast all day long. So, and that's the problem. It kind of baffles me a little bit with Dyer, because he never learned his trade in England. He learned it in Portugal. And that's even more malevolent than Spain. It really is.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
I don't know. Like, he's been so English as a professional. He should have something of that Portuguese, like, learning as a kid in his football, but he hasn't. He just hasn't. It's day and night. Like, my kids played football here in the UK, where I currently am, and they play football in Spain. And it's day and night how they teach the kids. And I can't understand how Dyer's not taken forward some of that training from when he was a lad in Portugal into his game now. He should be the best defender in the world. He's had the best of both worlds.
It really has. Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it? But obviously, Jay, I've asked you this question before on the state of Lloris, and I know that Mitch and Crackers have mentioned if he does get the header right, it will go back to Hugo. But after Hugo's performances in the last couple of weeks, would Hugo come out like an absolute bull in the china shop and cause a worse situation?
Again, with Mitch, and you've had me on here before, and I've defended Hugo Lloris all the time because he is a World Cup winner. Everyone needs to remember that. That is a World Cup winning goalkeeper we have in our squad. And yes, he has been a bit wobbly recently. The only thing I would say about the Dyer back pass, and maybe my only criticism of Lloris, is that one, if Dyer's looking to play that header, Lloris is very far back. If Lloris is observing the game and it looks like Dyer's going to be heading the ball back to him, he should already be taking a couple of steps forward. It didn't look like he did to me. He looked, when Dyer took the header, I think Lloris was still out of shot, which means that he was obviously from where Liverpool were playing. That's the right positioning, but the moment you see Dyer going for that header, he should already be on his way out. But still, it's definitely not Hugo's fault. That maybe might have changed things. Would he have come rushing out with a World Cup again? I don't know. Mike Minigan is obviously performing really well for AC Milan. So if that's not in the back of his head, then, But I think Hugo, it's weird because he's our captain, and I don't think I'd add anyone else as our captain, but he still doesn't. When he makes amazing saves, but he still has that moment in him where you're scared or he's going to do something. There was one time I think Liverpool played it down the left, and he was nearly outside his box going to collect the ball, and then had to run back to his goal line, and it just seems a bit erratic. But I think the same for Dyer is the same for Hugo. I think, and like Cracker said about Romero, when this team is confident, I think you see all of those players perform. But I think and Conte, and as a fan base, I think we feel it as well a little bit. When Dyer and Lloris look in front of them, and Lenglet had a good game. I can't complain about Lenglet. I didn't think he was awful. But then you got Ben Davies, the other side of him, Emerson Royale, and inexperienced Sessegnon. You're not going to be super confident going into a game against Firmino and Salah and Nunez. For the first goal, there were 3 centre backs marking Nunez and no one on Salah. It just seems like this massive confidence. It's all about confidence with this team, and I don't think there's enough confidence in the squad from the manager. What game was it the other day? It was the Bournemouth game, wasn't it? We were talking, and you said it's almost like Conte is playing these players to prove a point, and Jose Mourinho did that. He played players to kind of go, look, this is what we've got to deal with. We need improvements, because otherwise, you're going to have a back three of Dyer, Lenglet, and Davies with Emerson Royale at right wing back. Sessegnon's still got time, but that back five, that ain't going to win you nothing. It's not going to win you anything. But yeah, with Hugo, he like Mitch says, he will forever be my keeper until he leaves the club. However, if I watch Leeds again and Meslier, I might change my mind. But at the minute, I'll stick with this Frenchman. That's
fair enough. No, I thought I'd ask you that question because I know how much you like to talk about the keepers, and it was quite interesting to see these two talk about whether if Dyer does get it right, whether Hugo doesn't make a silly cock up. But luckily for us, we didn't get to witness that. But Mitch, I know that you've got a dip to go and score some goals tonight. So thank you again for joining us tonight, and hopefully get you back on soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Can we have you against Forest?
Yeah, I'd love to, mate. That'll be my way of getting a ticket. No, I appreciate you having me on, Hull, and I'll be back again for sure. But yeah, nice to speak to you all. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Cheers. Thank you. Enjoy it. Yeah. See you later. But yeah, so we're talking about obviously the 2 goals we conceded. But Crackers, we did actually manage to do something in the second half, because we saw the ginger Swede come on the pitch and straight away make an impact.
There you go, Hollie. It's, this is another thing to bear in mind when you're talking about Spurs at the moment. No Kulusevski, no Richarlison, no Son. There's players missing out of that team at the moment that are such vital cogs in the side, and you've lost so much quality out of that side. And Kulusevski comes on, sets up the goal, and Kane takes that goal against a decent keeper in Alisson, by the way, who is very difficult to beat at them angles, and beats him. So Kulusevski coming back in is a real bonus, I mean, that's why it's so hard to judge Tottenham at the moment, because we are missing so many important players that are there, and in other positions we're so weak. So this is why I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there's tweaks to be made rather than anything absolutely huge. Granted, they might be 60 to 70 million pound tweaks, but we've got to make with wing backs that can actually play as wing backs, because, you know, if you look at both sides, Emerson, forget it. I mean, we've done it to death. Your face says it all, Hollie. Doherty, yeah, okay, solid, dependable, but then he has a horror show and he doesn't pull any trees up. But we have got this Destiny Udogie coming, and he looks a player, by the way. Perisic, he's a great player, but he's 33. So there's a couple of additions that are needed, and some players that we just need to keep fit. Son is missing at the moment, and he's not been much of a miss in the last 5 or 6 games, is he? Nobody's, you know, putting their hands on their heads going, the sky's falling in like chicken licking, because he's out of the side at the moment. But he'll be back. He's a quality player. He's just having a dip. So when he gets back firing alongside Kane, you know, this is the mad thing with Tottenham. This is like with recruitment. You have to get it right, because in Lo Celso, there's a great player. There's a lad that can really play football, but he's never settled. And Dembele is one of the world's best midfielders. I'll die on that hill that he is, but he can't be bothered. Can you imagine if we kept everybody fit and those two like actually fancying it and playing the game? Dele Alli's another one that we've got rid of now, that's just gone off into the wilderness and done whatever. There's another lad that should have been pulling trees up for us. So, you know, I've given you 3 players there that could have still been really integral to Spurs' season. You know, if we had those 3 actually doing what they could do and keeping ourselves fit, and a couple of additions, we're running Man City close. We really are. So we're not that far off. We've just got to get rid of those players that don't fancy it and bring a couple in. There's that, because of the system Conte plays, you've got to have those wing backs being able to play. Sessegnon is a player in there, but he's just not nasty enough. Mm-hmm. He needs a couple of weeks on a rotten council estate that I grew up on as a kid. I think that's what he needs.
He needs to be roughened up.
Yeah, I think like Trent Alexander-Arnold and Sessegnon, if you put the two together and got Trent Alexander-Arnold's malevolence and brain and Sessegnon's ability, I'll tell you what, you've got some player there. But the trouble is, one's got one element and the other's got the other. Sessegnon can be a good wing back. He's not nasty enough, Ollie. He's just not clever or nasty enough. It might come, but those wing backs have got to be addressed, because Conte's system works on that so much. And, you know, all the time people talk about, oh, maybe we should go and buy Maddison from Leicester. Forget it. That, like, Conte don't play that system. It's a waste of money. You're wasting £80 million on a player that Conte's not really going to use, because it doesn't suit how he plays. Go and spend £80 million on a wing back.
Yes, please.
A system he does play. So we're not far off. We really are not far off. But that has got to be addressed in January. That has to be addressed. And people say it's so difficult to buy players in January. It's not. It really isn't. Because if they're valued at 70 million and you give a club 70 million, guess
You get
what?
the player.
You get the player. You get the player. And a few weeks ago, I watched Tottenham get handed over to the NFL for the week for two games, 2 Sundays running. I cannot tell you the money that got spent in that stadium and in that club shop and in rents and this and that. That club is absolutely stuffed full of money. There is no excuse not to go out and give Conte what he needs. It's as simple as that. The club just have to be brave and do it because it's just all about filling in and the club bending and shaping to Conte's system. And he will win you something, but you have to back him. You simply have to back him. If you don't, forget it. You might as well get somebody back that's going to be like a project manager and try and bring kids through. And, so Conte comes with Conte expenses. It's as simple as that. You buy a Bentley, guess what? When you walk in a Bentley, you get a Bentley, but you also get 500 quid a corner on tyres, and you also get 3, 4, 5 grand on a service. That's what you got to do. Buy a Bentley, expect Bentley running costs.
Exactly. No, I think you echo. I think that most Spurs fans are thinking. I know Conte came out and said that we need patience. And I think the only thing is with Spurs fans, we're fed up of waiting. We've waited so long, and now, like you say, with the NFL, with all this revenue coming in, something needs to happen. But going back to the game, obviously we've spoken a little bit about Kulusevski's goal and the fact that down that wing, when we have a player on that can work in Conte's system and that can cut, and it works. So Jay. Obviously, it took a while for Conte to make those changes. Do you think it should have happened a bit sooner, to say the least, or do you think it was good timing?
I think it was good timing just because I think I'm always cautious of managers that make changes at half time because it doesn't give the players that played poorly in the first half the chance in the second half to go out and make up for their mistakes or improve. And it showed that the changes came at the right time because 1 minute and 11 seconds later we scored. So, yeah, I think it was the right time, and I think it was the right moment in the game. And I said, that was the most I've enjoyed watching my football team play football this season, probably that second half. And from a neutral perspective, it was probably the most entertaining Tottenham game there's been all season because, we're pretty damn awful to watch. And I've said this many a time. I said it with Jose and okay, Conte's got a bit more passion than Jose, which is why I think he's got a little bit more leniency with our fans than Jose did. But if you're going to play ball in football, you need to win. You need to win. I do not care. I'm one of those fans that I don't care if we play the worst football on planet Earth and we grind out 1-0. I just want to win. And if I wanted to play nice football and not win anything, I'd have Pochettino back.
Did that actually just go out your mouth?
Yeah, I know. No, but that's what I'm saying.
Amen. Amen, JJ. Amen. You're leaning on an open door there.
Because that's the thing that's annoying about the whole Conte thing, and like you said, Hollie, and my biggest gripe, and you'll know this, and if the guys in the group chat are watching, they'll agree with me. My biggest gripe, 90% of the time, is our own fan base because we are not patient. We are not patient, and I'm not being funny. We don't deserve to be patient. We've not won anything. We want in all these quick fixes all the time, and we get world-class managers in. We get rid of Jose a week before a cup final, which I to this day guarantee you we would have won. And now we've got another manager who doesn't play the style of football we want, but he's also not got the players that he wants yet. Not the squad. And we're talking about like Sessegnon's confidence and Sessegnon playing and stuff, but Destiny Udogie is a left wing back. Yeah, he's going to come in and he is going to take Sessegnon's place. Right, that's it. Sessegnon needs to back up his ideas and needs to go, right, this kid's going to, because similar ages, this kid's going to come and take my place. He needs to play like, he needs to iron out all of these mistakes. He's been at the club long enough. I'm a massive fan of his, and I think he's got so much more potential in him. And I think having Perisic in front of him in the running order will be a great football education. He's already come out and said that playing with Perisic has taught him so much more about the game. But yeah, people's argument is, oh, well, you know, why can't we play like that for 90 minutes? I tell you now, if we started games like that, we'd be 2-0 up, and then our players would be tired. Eric Dyer would make twice as many mistakes. Emerson Royale's legs would have fallen off, and we'd have lost the game 5-2. But we've had a good first half. You know, Conte knows what he's doing, and none of us have got the football education and pedigree that he's got. And I fully trust whatever he decides to do. And if it's awful to watch, it's awful to watch. But we cannot be losing games and it'd be awful to watch. What,
JJ? It's not awful to watch when it's got right.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Even when it was right, it wasn't great. But
No.
Conte can actually give you a certain amount of entertainment, because when his football is right, it's decent to watch. It's not swashbuckling like it's like Pochettino was. But do you know what? It's grown up entertaining football. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more cultured. It's a little bit more been to university rather than street ball, you know?
Yeah.
So when it's right, it is good to watch. Like, I don't know, beating a team 2 or 3-0 under Conte ball will be great to watch. It really is. The back end of last season was great to watch. Tell me that wasn't great to watch. I know Norwich were done and dusted, you know, and they were finished. But we went there and played some absolutely lovely football. What a day out that was, by the way. And that's what you can have if everybody's hitting their marks and everybody's playing the systems that he wants to play. So it can be entertaining. You just got to be a little bit more cultured and a little bit more rounded, because you're not getting street ballers offering you it. You know, it's a little bit more grown up football, really. So
I think that's the problem is, though, is I agree with you that like you said, when it works, but I don't think we have enough players to make it work consistently enough. That's the thing. I just think when it works, if I was to set up how I would play football, which not football, but I like that style of football, absorbing pressure, hitting on the counter attack, and then finding the right balls, rather than just a constant press or like a Liverpool style of football. That's good to watch, but I would never want to play that football. I'd never want to, you know, watch it. But I just think we need the right players. And the reason why sometimes it feels awful to watch is because we know the players aren't good enough. So we're already dreading, oh, Dan, no.
I'm just ignoring it for you.
I'm just ignoring it. He had, sorry, Dan. He had the best Tottenham team I've seen in my lifetime and won 0 trophies. Not even a League Cup, not an FA Cup. He got to a Champions League final and lost. That's all I need to say. That's all. That's it.
Right, moving on.
We didn't have any stars. Oh my God. Son, Eriksen and Kane were the best players in the Premier League in those Poch seasons. And you're saying he didn't have any stars? No, not having it.
Anyway.
Do you know what, Hollie? Do you know why I love doing pods? And I only do Last Word on Spurs on your own, because most of the others I can't be bothered with. They're all agenda driven. I like Last Word on Spurs. I like Ricky, so I do that. I come and do your show because I like you, and you let people speak and say what they need to say. But the reason I do pods is because in my last little section before, like 5 minutes ago, 2 comments came up and somebody went, spitting truths. He's telling the truth. And the very next comment was, what a load of cobblers. And how great is that? If you can offer up an opinion, because everybody sees football differently, don't they? This is the thing, you know, there's those sort of team Poch, team Ozzy Ardiles, team Keith Birkinshaw people that like that type of football. And then there's those team pragmatic managers like Conte, like Mourinho even, you know, and nobody's wrong. It's just what you enjoy. I'm actually a little bit more of a team Poch and a team Ozzy Ardiles type of fan.
Have you just said that to wind him up?
No, I'm genuinely, but because like I've got to an age of where I've got and I'm a little bit more pragmatic, I can see that actually, even though I might not enjoy the football, I'll go with this. I'll go with Conte because there's more chance of winning something. I might not be as entertained, but I might see a trophy like turn up in that empty room at the moment. So, you know, it's like what you like, but also respect and see the value and merits in other ways of doing things.
Sorry, just one more thing on Poch, because I don't get the opportunity much. But you know, to say that he wasn't able to manage stars. He went to Paris Saint-Germain with Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar, lost the league to Lille, and didn't get any further than the Champions League than any of his predecessors. And you tell me that man would do better with talent? Not a chance. Not a chance. But I agree with Crackers that it's good that we can have different opinions.
It's all right, guys. I've got to put up with Jay after this. So can we please chill out on the Poch drama at the moment? But before we want to go, I just want to briefly touch on not the cup game, because I feel like that's going to be a bit of a game that I hope we win, considering that for us at the bottom of the table. But in cups, you know, that never normally happens and an upset could happen. But I'm going to move away from that, and I just want to talk about Leeds. And that is that we played them last week. It will be our last game before the World Cup. So, Crackers, I know we've touched on the fact that we know there might be some faces that we probably won't see. But what are you hoping that we get out against Leeds? I'm hoping it's a win, because I'd like to finish off this half of the season with one.
Yeah, we definitely 100% need a win to stay in touch in and around that top four and stay in the hunt. So, do you know what? If you're a professional gambler, you are not touching any ACCAs next Saturday. It's going to be an absolute basket case day of football. I think it's absolutely impossible to predict what's going to happen. That last game, it's going to sit in so many players' minds that this is the last game. And if I come through this unscathed, I'm going to the World Cup. So I don't know what type of team we're going to get. I don't know what type of performance we're going to get. But that's not just Tottenham. That will be right across the Premier League and all leagues this weekend as everybody wraps up. There will be some really, really weird results. Do you know what? It's probably worth looking at all the games. I know we've got Leeds, but if you had West Ham at Man United, go and have 20 pence on West Ham to win 0-4. And then go and have 10 pence on Liverpool to lose 5-2 at home. Because I'm sure that this weekend will throw up some crazy, crazy results, because nobody is putting their back into the game that's not going. I think the only thing you can probably guarantee is that Haaland will score 15 goals this Saturday, because he's not going to the World Cup. So he's got nothing to lose. And if he's up against a couple of defenders that are going to the World Cup, back him to score 15 goals in one game. Go and see who'll give you odds on that. You can't even begin to have a conversation for this weekend's results. But we need a win to stay in touch. We're capable of getting a win. Go and win it. Simple as that.
I would love that. I think we need that. I believe it's at home as well, so it'd be a great send-off, obviously, for the fans that are going. I mean, if we are going to look at form, Jay, I mean, they beat Liverpool, but they lost to Fulham and Leicester prior. So if we're going off form, is it beatable? Is it doable?
One thing for sure is Leeds very similar to us. I'd be more scared if we go ahead in front of Leeds. came back against Liverpool, came back against Brentford. Was it Brentford at the weekend?
Possibly
Bournemouth? Might have been Bournemouth. Yeah, they came back at the weekend, done the same thing. Somerville got both goals. I'm with Crackers though. I'm concerned about, and someone said it in the chat. How many of those Leeds players are going to the World Cup? I don't think many compared to our team. And obviously Leeds have already got everyone calls them dirty Leeds for a reason, so are players going to be worried about playing against them? Probably yes. Would I like the game to be done and dusted by the first half? Yes. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Is it going to be super stressful? Yep. But I think Leeds offer an opportunity or a massive banana peel for before the World Cup, it goes back to the whole decision. I think it's wrong that players are having to make this decision and having to have this in the back of their heads when they're going to play football. That football is a dangerous sport when it comes to pulling out of challenges. If you go into any 50-50 and you're not 100% in it, you're always going to come out the player injured. And there's going to be a lot of players across the whole weekend, like Cracker said, that are going to be thinking about the World Cup when they're going in for that 50-50, when that player's through on goal and they've got a stretch to make the tackle, that they might stretch and their hamstring might go. And 1,000,000% agree that I do think there's going to be some weird lineups and some weird results. I definitely think in the week for the Carabao Cup, if there was any question of how serious people are going to take the competition this year, I definitely think there's going to be some funky lineups from all of the Premier League teams in the week against Forest and that round as a whole. But yeah, I just think we need to beat Leeds. These are teams we need to beat, and I just hope that we do, because otherwise, we're going to be going into the World Cup on a low, and then the lot down the road, if they win as well, it's just, I'm hoping they're going to fall off a cliff after the World Cup. But,
No, I think you're right. I think, like we said, like we've all kind of covered, it will be an interesting game to see the lineup. I mean, we've had Perisic up top, so God knows what's going to happen midweek and at the weekend. But it'll be interesting, like we say, to look forward to it. Obviously, we have also drawn today in the last 16 to AC Milan, which I'm sure at some point we will get on later on down the line when it gets closer. But good luck anybody celebrating Valentine's Day, because it happens on the same day. So good luck with that. It'll be fine. Me and Jay will be watching it on the telly, shouting at the thing. It's been a good chat tonight. It's been an interesting one. Obviously, I feel like when Jay ever comes on the channel, somehow comes to the forefront of the
Someone
conversation.
always goads me. Someone always goads me. I always get goaded.
But that has been an interesting conversation. Before we go, I'd like to say goodbye to these two. So, Crackers, thank you once again for joining me tonight. I love it when you come on and crack the analogies. They always do make me giggle. So, thank you. Where can everybody find you?
Hollie, if I can set you any homework, Dan Stratford in the comments said, go and have a look at the results of Boxing Day 1963. And he's absolutely spot on. There was ridiculous results, and that will be this Saturday. It really will. So it'll be a funny one on Saturday. But enjoy the World Cup if that's your thing, and after Saturday and Wednesday. And listen, thank you for inviting me on again. It's been lovely to speak to Mitch and Jay, and see people enjoying it, and the difference of opinions. But the nice thing, difference of opinion with respecting them as well. That's what it's all about. So long live that. Viva opinions.
Love it. I love it. Thank you, Crackers, once again. And Jay, thank you for joining me as well. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
They can find me on Twitch, Twitter and TikTok, mainly gaming, to be honest, not so much doing the podcasts and stuff. I'm like Wes, I'm a super sub. But no, yeah, you can find me on Twitter, mainly spouting opinions and mostly anti-Poch, but yeah.
Brilliant. I had to get it in one more time.
Yeah, one more.
You can find me in the pub, Hollie.
I like that. I like that. That seems like a good place to find you, to be fair. I'd be down with that. But like I say, thank you to everybody as well that's been in the chat tonight. It's been very lively. Thank you all. Like we've said continuously on the show, like Crackers keep saying, it's good to have opinions. I know sometimes we don't see eye to eye, but hey, that's what it's like being a football fan. But no, hopefully next week, Monday at 7 p.m, same place, same time, will be the last Hollie's Hotspurs before, obviously, the international break with the World Cup. But keep your eyes peeled for some England content, because I may be joining up with a familiar face. He may be a supporter down the road, but we get together and we like each other when England are playing. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. And like we always say, until next time, come on, you Spurs.